Good day, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of the Fake Pigskin YouTube episode. And I have no better way to start off the first episode than talk about the Scott Fish Bowl 7 that's upcoming. If you are on the fantasy Twitterverse, we are known as SFB 7. This is a sort of a fantasy football Olympics style for all the analysts and fans alike coming together and challenging one another in a big friendly competition of fantasy football minds and in a redraft sort of format. Every year is exciting. This is my third year participating, and every year Scott Fish, the creator of this Bowl Mania, has a twist in the scoring, and for this year we are going back to the Ice Age of no points per reception, but bonuses for running backs and wide receivers who can convert first downs, and tight ends will get a 2.5 point per first down scoring. So it's also a super flex, and the requirements for starting wide receivers is 3 minimum wide receivers. So this really causes a bonanza of strategies and variety of preparations that you don't typically find online. These preparations, what I believe is that in this and every year Scott Fish Bowl Mania, they will always challenge the analysts and fans all together to come up with a preparation of sorts and to challenge themselves in building their own processes. While this video may be focused on the SFB7, I will have to tell you that the information that learned here today can be applied to your redraft that's upcoming. It's the month of July, and in the month of August, a lot of redraft leagues will take place, and hopefully this information will serve you well. So let's talk about it. My name is Chris Chung at FF Dynasty 101. This year I am in the Disney Classic Conference and in the Darkwing Duck division. With that said, I have a challenge to pose to my fellow Darkwing Duck people, and I challenge them to draft faster than me. Basically, for every person at the end of a draft who has average draft time that is faster than mine, I will donate $5 to the Fantasy Care website. And please visit the website. You can join for learn more about the SFB, learn more about Fantasy Cares and how we can use fantasy to make a better world out there, and the great job that Scott Fish is doing. If the caveat being, if every single owner in that league drafts faster than I am, I will move it up to $100. There's a typo there. I will give $100, I will not give $100. So visit the site if you want to be part of this next year. The site will tell you, have information, instructions on how you can participate. If you're not invited to the SFB7 this year, they have a best ball version of this on that site you can sign up for too, so you can enjoy the scoring setting and as well as apply the information learned here today. So what I want to do today is kind of talk about my preparation and how I sort of build my process when it comes to unfamiliar formatting, unfamiliar scoring settings. First, mock drafts are invaluable for this, and a lot of times I see people use mock draft for the wrong reason. They believe that practicing over and over again and drafting the players that they like, figure out who they want, specific players, is a way to use mock draft, but that is not the case. Mock draft for me is to figure out where positions will fall, what positions will steal, what surprising scenarios may happen. Perhaps I entered the draft with the idea of going 0 RB, but find myself face to face with a Le'Veon Bell in the mid-second round or late second round, much as I was last year. I would have to make sure that I still stick to my idea of my process, of my 0 RB idea, but also not rule out the possibility that surprising players may fall much farther than where they're expected to go. And these mock drafts sometimes can reveal that sort of those sort of what is that the word that Denny always uses, these faults in the values. I don't even know what the term is, but in any case, mock drafts help you prepare for those kind of scenarios. In my first mock drafts being held specifically with this SFB7 scoring setting, this is the time where I get to kind of picture myself, but I will do without any preparation, and start to build an idea of how I can create my own big board. In this mock draft, as you can see, I went with the traditional route of, because of it being a super flex and non-PPR, I focused heavily on quarterbacks and running backs. But when I looked at my wide receivers and my tight ends, I am not too happy about this team, mainly because my wide receivers, I've been able to barely draft 3 startable wide receivers, and I cannot even count on all 3 being there for me throughout the whole season. If there's ineffectiveness or injuries that happen early in the season, it doesn't matter how strong my running back depth, or it doesn't matter how strong my starting quarterbacks and tight ends are, I will fall behind in the long run. Over the course of 13 weeks, this is not a sustainable, in my opinion, not a sustainable kind of roster. So that gives me an idea of what to do for my next mock. In my next mock, I've used the information I gained from my first one to build my big board, and then kind of plan into applying it in the second mock. In this second mock, it became closer to me what I needed to do. There were still some areas where I was not too happy with as I built this team. First being that the quarterback, while I managed to grab one elite guy, what happens if my second quarterback loses his job before the season even starts, or the rookie Deshaun Watson doesn't even get a chance to start because they're planning to go with Tom Savage. So now I'm running, falling behind on my competitors who may have a glut of startable quarterbacks from week to week, and if my first few weeks I fall behind, I have a smaller chance of catching up throughout the rest of the season. Remember, you only have 13 weeks to kind of prove yourself that your team is competitive and that you win enough games in 13 weeks. That's not a lot of games. That's not a lot of weeks. For this round, I am happy with the running back core, because my starter Todd Gurley, Mark Ingram, those are my projected starters, will carry the load for now. And then I have some upside running backs that, in scenarios where their starters become ineffective, they can come in, get an opportunity, or even carve out a 50-50 role. So I'm pretty happy with this core of running back, because it will give me down the line scenarios that may happen, and that could help cover up for the failings if my starters are not living up to their expectation. The wide receivers are strong as well, but perhaps I went a tad bit overboard by drafting several upper echelon kind of wide receivers, and also prioritizing some of the wide receiver 2 and 3 cores. The idea here is then that I still have this 0 RB kind of mindset going into this draft, and noting that it may not be beneficial to me in the long run for this season, I will have to go back and revise my big board. I don't mind punting on tight ends if I don't get the ones that I really like in the mid rounds, or in the early and in the rounds that I would like to see them at. Tight ends, while the premium scoring does help them, in the long term, it really just only elevates the elite guys who get a lot of targets and get a lot of opportunities to convert those first downs. They don't really boost it too much for those who are not elite. So there is a scramble for me in the waiver wire to find another tight end, but for now I am willing to stick with Fedorovich and Hooper. In my last iteration, which is still ongoing, you can see I refined a little bit of my process. You still see some of the similar names, but to be honest, I kind of like this team a little bit better, because it gives me a solid core of running backs that can help me cover any type of opportunities for injury and ineffectiveness to my starters. I managed to grab 2 quarterbacks that I'll be able to use early on in the season, and make preparations if Bortles might lose his job, perhaps Mitchell Trubisky by then would have come up. I do plan to perhaps look for one more quarterback that I could use in this draft. My wide receivers, I am happy with just two consistent starters and then rotate on the third wide receiver spot with some high upside and some solid low end wide receiver twos. But it could use a little bit more work. Could have taken a wide receiver instead of taking a Terrence West or Devontae Booker. But in this scoring, the running backs 2s and 3s generally score higher than a wide receiver 2 or 3. So the major weakness I have is tight end, because Eric Swoop is not even a starter tight end, and yet he's my only tight end so far. I may have to look into if I can find a tight end in some mid rounds or maybe a little bit earlier than the 16th round. But overall, I am happy that my process is shaping up. So those are the kind of things I want you to think about as you prepare for your own leagues with your own cheat sheet and your own big boards. Now, again, I don't want you to focus too much on the names and the players that and telling you which is the most best strategy that will guarantee a win, because there's no such thing. What I'm hoping to show you is to kind of build your own process, kind of build your own what you like from a team. Maybe you like a certain player more than me, and or maybe you like a certain strategy more than I do. Just kind of apply those, practice those, because going into draft day, everything will change, everything will be different, and all hell will break loose. And I don't expect the mock drafts to look like my draft day board. But so here are some kind of takeaways that I want you to have as you prepare for the SFV7 or maybe even your own redraft league. First, your preparation should have been done by yesterday. If you're starting to prepare now for the Scott Fish Bowl, you are already too late, because it requires a few practices, it requires a few refining to make yourself feel confident going into your draft board. With that said, there are resources out there. Look for Rob Marino. That's exactly how it sounded. Rob and Marino, sharing a last name with the great quarterback of the Dolphins. He has a cheat sheet for sale that is built through the ADP from these mock drafts that we've been participating in, and adjusted now before Monday. Or another resource that you can use is go to Zach HHVK. That's ZACHHHVK, also known as the ADP Mercenary. He'll have ADP information available to you to help you create your expectations of what you can hope to see on draft day. He'll also have those ADP available for other leagues as well as redraft leagues. So those are great resources that you can use. What I noticed is that the 2016 final scoring data is a slight outlier. What I mean by that is running backs have scored tremendously higher than the wide receiver position this last year. But if you look at the data from the past 4 to 5 years, wide receivers and running backs have been more or less even in the second and third tier. It doesn't affect the elite wide receivers or elite quarterback as much, but from last year's scorings, we can see that even the best wide receiver only scored about the 36 outside the top 30, which is an anomaly in most cases. So if we are expecting it to regress back to normal, we should see a bit more wide receiver 2 and running back 2 sharing a similar output, similar fantasy points output. But nonetheless, running back is still going to be important for your preparation to draft early, but do not neglect those wide receivers. Finally, total point is going to be a bit more important than your win-loss record. In the Scott Fish Bowl, 2 years ago, I had a pretty good record, finishing top of my division, but because I had a few fluky wins, it didn't help that my total points were a bit lower than the norm. So I was not able to advance to the next round. But that's taking some of the luck factor out in this type of rules, which I do appreciate, and it's for those who are managing their teams well from week to week are rewarded for scoring high enough points. So remember that. Lastly, budget your waiver wires properly. Between the end of your draft and the beginning of the season, you are not only allowed to do any pickups, and therefore you're kind of stuck with your team, and things will happen during training camp, during preseason, that will affect the strength of your team or the structure of your team. Budget your waiver wires accordingly. Sometimes you think that one part of your team is a strength, but heading into the season, you'll notice how quickly that strength become a weakness, so you need to make sure that you spend. Last year, for example, I thought Russell Wilson and Phillip Rivers were a great pair to have that I didn't need to spend on Dak Prescott. Lo and behold, Russell Wilson was ineffective for 6 weeks, or 6 or 7 weeks, and that really killed a lot of the effectiveness of my team, and I ignored the Dak Prescott pickup at that point. Also be wary of your opponents and how they will budget their waiver wire bucks. I noticed some of the notable names like Shane P. Hallam or Matt Francisco or Matt Harmon loves Tyrod Taylor, who is a risky proposition in my opinion. So they will be probably looking for quarterbacks. This is your hint from my video that you will never get anywhere else. Alright, hope you enjoy the video, hope you can build your own process, and that this will help you not just in your Scott Fish Bowl, but also in your redraft preparation. If you have any questions, please ask me at FFDynasty101, or go to our Fake Pigskin website to look for more information that will help you create a great team, create a great fun process, and help you dominate in whatever fantasy sports you hope to play in. Alright, goodbye.